Imagine a land where fire meets ice, where you can watch the northern lights dance above you at night and bathe in hot springs while snow falls around you. A country with more volcanoes than football stadiums, and waterfalls so powerful they create their own weather. This is Iceland, a place where the earth is still being born, where tectonic plates tear apart before your eyes, and where nature shows its most dramatic and beautiful face. In this complete guide, you'll discover everything about this incredible country. We'll explore its massive glaciers and active volcanoes. We'll visit black sand beaches and powerful waterfalls. We'll learn about the Viking heritage and modern Icelandic culture. We'll meet puffins and whales. We'll taste unique Icelandic food and relax in geothermal hot springs. And we'll give you all the practical tips you need to plan your own Icelandic adventure. This is the most complete Iceland guide on YouTube. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore the land of fire and ice together. Iceland is a small island nation in the North Atlantic Ocean. It sits just below the Arctic Circle, right between Europe and North America. If you look at a map, you'll find it about halfway between Norway and Greenland. Size and population. The country covers about 103,000 square kilometers, making it roughly the size of the US state of Kentucky, or about the same as England. Despite its size, Iceland is only about 380,000 people living here. To put that in perspective, that's less than the population of many medium-sized cities around the world. More than 2/3 of these people live in and around the capital city of Reykjavik. This makes Iceland one of the least densely populated countries in Europe. In fact, when you drive through the countryside, you can go for many kilometers without seeing a single house or person. This isolation and empty landscape is part of Iceland's charm.
I'm Eva. Why so few people? You might wonder why such a beautiful country has so few people. The answer lies in its history and environment. Iceland was one of the last places in Europe to be settled. Vikings from Norway arrived here around 870 AD. Before that, only a few Irish monks had visited the island. The harsh climate, volcanic eruptions, and isolation made life difficult for early settlers. Throughout history, Iceland has faced many challenges: volcanic eruptions that destroyed farmland, extremely cold winters, and diseases that killed livestock. At one point in the 1700s, the population dropped to just 40,000 people. Geological wonder: Iceland is one of the youngest countries on Earth, geologically speaking. The island sits on top of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are pulling apart. This makes Iceland one of the most geologically active places on the planet. The island is still being formed by volcanic activity. Every few years, there's a new eruption somewhere in Iceland. The land is literally growing, getting bigger as new lava adds to the island. Scientists estimate that Iceland is only about 20 million years old, which is very young in geological terms. This unique position on the tectonic plates gives Iceland its dramatic landscape. The volcanic activity creates hot springs, geysers, and lava fields. The cold northern climate creates massive glaciers. Together, fire and ice have shaped this incredible island. Climate: despite being so far north, Iceland's climate is milder than you might expect. The Gulf Stream, a warm ocean current from the tropics, flows past Iceland's southern and western coasts. This keeps temperatures moderate. In summer, temperatures range from 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. In winter, they usually stay around 0 degrees Celsius. This is much warmer than other places at the same latitude. For comparison, parts of Alaska and northern Canada at the same latitude can reach -40 degrees in winter. However, the weather in Iceland is extremely unpredictable and changes quickly. Icelanders have a saying: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. You can experience sun, rain, wind, and even snow all in one day. This is why visitors need to pack layers and be prepared for all conditions. Modern Iceland today. Iceland is a modern, developed country. It has one of the highest standards of living in the world. The country uses its geothermal and hydroelectric resources to generate clean, renewable energy. In fact, Iceland gets nearly 100% of its electricity from renewable sources. The economy used to depend mainly on fishing. While fishing is still important, tourism has become a major industry. Every year, more than 2 million tourists visit Iceland, which is about 5 times the local population. This tourism boom started around 2010 and has transformed the country. The Ring Road and regions. Before we dive into specific attractions, let's understand how Iceland is organized and how travelers explore it. The Ring Road Route 1, called the Ring Road or Hringvegur in Icelandic, circles the entire island. It's about 1,332 kilometers long and connects most of the major towns and attractions. The road was completed in 1974, and before that, traveling around Iceland was much more difficult. Most tourists use the Ring Road as their main route. If you drive non-stop, it takes about 13 to 14 hours to complete the circle. But no one does this. Most people take at least 7 to 10 days to drive the Ring Road, stopping to see attractions along the way. The Ring Road is paved all the way around, which makes it accessible for regular cars in summer. However, in winter, sections can be closed due to snow and ice. Always check road conditions before traveling. The regions of Iceland is divided into several distinct regions, each with its own character. The capital region. This includes Reykjavik and surrounding towns like Keflavik and Hafnarfjörður. About 230,000 people live in this area. It's the cultural, economic, and political heart of Iceland.
The south coast. This is the most popular tourist route. It includes some of Iceland's most famous attractions, waterfalls like Seljalandsfoss and Eskegafoss, the black sand beaches of VK, the Jökulsárl and Glacier Lagoon, and the Vatnajökull Glacier. The landscape here is dramatic, with glaciers meeting the sea, volcanic beaches, and green farmland. The East Fjords. This region has deep fjords cutting into the coastline, small fishing villages, and mountains that rise steeply from the sea. It's quieter than the south coast, but equally beautiful. The largest town is Egilsstaðir. The north main town is Akureyri, Iceland's second largest urban area with about 19,000 people. The north is known for whale watching, especially around Hvalsey. Lake Mývatn is a volcanic wonderland with bizarre rock formations and geothermal areas. The north also has impressive waterfalls like Gofoss and Dettifoss, Europe's most powerful waterfall. The West Fjords is the most remote and least visited region. It's a peninsula in the northwest with dramatic fjords, steep cliffs, and tiny villages. The roads here are often unpaved and can be challenging to drive. But for those who make the effort, the West Fjords offer incredible solitude and natural beauty. The Highlands. The interior of Iceland is a vast, uninhabited wilderness. The highlands are a desert of volcanic rock, sand, and mountains. No one lives here, and there are no services. The highland roads are only open in summer, usually from late June to September. They require 4 times for vehicles because you have to cross rivers. Popular highland destinations include Landmannalaugar with its colorful mountains, Reyðarfjall Valley surrounded by glaciers, and the Askja caldera. The Reykjanes Peninsula. This peninsula near Reykjavik is home to the international airport and the Blue Lagoon. It has lunar-like lava fields, geothermal areas, and dramatic coastlines. Many visitors pass through quickly on their way to or from the airport, but it's worth exploring. The Snæfellsnes Peninsula, often called Iceland in miniature. This peninsula west of Reykjavik has a bit of everything: a glacier, lava fields, fishing villages, waterfalls, and dramatic coastlines. It can be visited as a day trip from Reykjavik or as part of a longer journey.
Waterfalls. Nature's power on display. Iceland is known as the land of waterfalls. The combination of high rainfall, glacial melt, and elevation changes creates thousands of waterfalls across the country. Some are famous and visited by thousands daily. Others are hidden gems that few people see. Let's explore the most remarkable ones. Gullfoss. The Golden Falls. Gullfoss is Iceland's most famous waterfall and part of the Golden Circle route. The name means Golden Falls, possibly because the glacial water sometimes appears golden in the sunlight, or because of a legend about gold being hidden behind the falls. This waterfall is actually a 2-stage cascade. The Vida River first drops 11 meters, then makes a 90-degree turn and plunges another 21 meters into a narrow canyon. At full flow, about 140 cubic meters of water crash down every second. What makes Gullfoss special is that you can get very close to it. Walking paths take you right to the edge, where you feel the power and hear the thunder of the falling water. On sunny days, the spray creates beautiful rainbows. There's an interesting story about Gullfoss. In the early 1920s, foreign investors wanted to build a hydroelectric power plant here, which would have destroyed the waterfall. A farmer's daughter named Sigríður Tómasdóttir walked to Reykjavik multiple times, barefoot, to protest. She threatened to throw herself into the falls if the project went ahead. Thanks to her efforts, the project was stopped, and Gullfoss was saved. Today, she's remembered as Iceland's first environmentalist. Seljalandsfoss, walk behind the water. The 60-meter-tall waterfall is unique because you can walk behind it. A path leads around the back of the falling water, giving you a view of the countryside through the water curtain. The waterfall drops from a former sea cliff. Thousands of years ago, the ocean reached this far inland. As Iceland's land rose after the last ice age, the sea retreated, leaving these cliffs behind. Visiting Seljalandsfoss in the evening light is magical. The setting sun creates beautiful colors, and if you're lucky, you might see a rainbow encircling the entire falls. Be prepared to get wet from the spray. A waterproof jacket is essential if you walk behind the falls. Also, the path can be slippery, so wear good shoes. Skogafoss, the mighty jaunt. About 30 kilometers from Seljalandsfoss stands Skogafoss, one of Iceland's biggest waterfalls. It's 60 meters tall and 25 meters wide. The volume of water is impressive, and the spray can be seen from far away. According to legend, a Viking settler named Rasi Worldsson hid a treasure chest behind the waterfall. Many have tried to find it, and one story says that a local boy once grabbed the chest's ring, but the chest slipped away and was lost. The ring was supposedly used for the door of a nearby church.
You can view Skogafoss from the bottom, where you'll get soaked by the spray. Or you can climb about 500 steps to the top for a bird's eye view. From the top, you can see the river continuing and more waterfalls in the distance. The area around Skogafoss often has rainbows, sometimes even double rainbows. On sunny days, it's almost guaranteed to see one. Goafoss, the waterfall of the gods. Goafoss is in North Iceland, on the ring road between Akureyri and Mukvatn. It's a beautiful horseshoe-shaped waterfall, 12 meters tall and 30 meters wide. The name means waterfall of the gods, and it comes from an important moment in Icelandic history. In the year 1000 AD, Iceland officially converted to Christianity. The law speaker, Walgailja was given the task of deciding Iceland's religion. After a day and night of meditation, he decided Iceland would become Christian. According to tradition, when he returned home, he threw his pagan Norse god statues into this waterfall, giving it its name. This marked the end of the pagan era in Iceland. Today, Goafoss is easily accessible and has viewing platforms on both sides of the river. Dettifoss, Europe's most powerful. Dettifoss in northeast Iceland is Europe's most powerful waterfall by volume. About 200 cubic meters of water crash over the edge every second. It's 45 meters tall and 100 meters wide. The sound is deafening, and the ground literally shakes under your feet as you approach. The glacial water is grey with sediment, and the force of the water has carved a massive canyon. Getting to Dettifoss requires a bit of effort. The road from the west side is paved, but the road from the east side is rough gravel. Both offer different perspectives of the waterfall. The Fjellum River that feeds Dettifoss comes from the Vatnajökull Glacier. Downstream are two more impressive waterfalls, Selfoss and Hafragilsfoss, making this area a waterfall lover's paradise. Svardafoss, the Black Falls, Svardafoss, meaning Black Falls, is a smaller waterfall in Vatnajökull National Park. What makes it special isn't its size but its surroundings. The waterfall is framed by dark, hexagonal basalt columns, creating a natural geometric pattern that looks almost man-made. These basalt columns form when lava cools slowly. The cooling causes the rock to contract and crack, creating these perfect six-sided columns. They're similar to the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. To reach Svardafoss, you need to hike about 1.5 kilometers from the parking area at Skaftafell. It's an easy hike that takes about 45 minutes round trip. The basalt columns around Svardafoss inspired the design of Hallgrímskirkja, Reykjavik's famous church.
Dinjandi, the jewel of the Westfjordsingen, also called Fjallfoss, is the most impressive waterfall in the Westfjords. It's actually a series of 7 waterfalls, with the main one at the top. The main falls are 100 meters tall and fan out from 30 meters wide at the top to 60 meters wide at the bottom, creating a bridal veil shape. The water cascades down in multiple tiers, and the sound is thunderous, which is what Dinjandi means. Below the main falls are 6 smaller waterfalls, each with its own name: Handafoss, Strákur, Ingumannafoss, Hursthafoss, Guslarfoss, and Babarfoss. The hike from the parking area passes all 7 falls and takes about 15 minutes. Because the Westfjords receive fewer visitors, you might have this magnificent waterfall almost to yourself. Høyfoss, the tall one. Høyfoss is one of Iceland's tallest waterfalls at 122 meters. It's in a remote area in South Iceland, requiring a 4x4 vehicle and a rough road to access. The waterfall drops into a deep canyon, and nearby is another waterfall called Granny. The 2 falls side by side create a spectacular view. The effort to reach Høyfoss is rewarded with dramatic scenery and fewer crowds. It's a favorite among photographers and those seeking less touristy locations. Glaciers, rivers of ice. About 11% of Iceland is covered by glaciers. These massive ice formations have shaped the landscape and continue to dominate the scenery in many parts of the country. Let's explore these frozen giants. What are glaciers? Glaciers form when snow accumulates year after year, compressing the lower layers into ice. As the ice gets thicker and heavier, it begins to flow downhill like a very slow river. The ice in some glaciers is hundreds or even thousands of years old. Glaciers are incredibly powerful. They carved out the fjords along Iceland's coast and shape the valleys and mountains. As they move, they grind the rock beneath them into fine powder, which gives glacial rivers their milky appearance. Vatnajökull. The king of glaciers, Vatnajökull, is Europe's largest glacier by volume. It covers about 8% of Iceland's land mass, roughly 8,100 square kilometers. That's larger than all of Europe's other glaciers combined. The ice is incredibly thick, averaging 400 meters deep. At its thickest point, the ice is about 1,000 meters deep. Imagine a building 200 stories tall made entirely of ice, and you get an idea of the scale.
What makes Vatnajökull even more remarkable is that it hides several active volcanoes beneath its ice. The most famous is Grímsvötn, which has erupted several times in recent decades. When a subglacial volcano erupts, it melts huge amounts of ice, causing massive floods called jökullaups. These floods can carry icebergs the size of houses and reshape the landscape dramatically. Another volcano under Vatnajökull is Bírærbunga, which erupted in 2014 to 2015 in the Hallorán lava field. While this eruption didn't break through the glacier, it created a massive lava field and was the largest eruption in Iceland in over 200 years. Langjökull, the long glacier Langjökull, is Iceland's second largest glacier, covering about 950 square kilometers. Its name means long glacier, and from above, you can see why it's long and narrow. What makes Langjökull special for tourists is that you can go inside it. An artificial ice tunnel has been carved into the glacier, allowing visitors to walk inside the ancient ice. The tunnel goes about 500 meters into the glacier and reaches depths of 30 to 40 meters below the surface. Inside the tunnel, you can see the different layers of ice and snow that have accumulated over centuries. Blue ice sections glow with an otherworldly light. A small chapel has even been carved into the ice, where couples can get married surrounded by ice. Langjökull is accessible from Reykjavik as a day trip, usually combined with a super jeep ride or snowmobile tour. Snæfellsjökull, the mystical glacier in Fellsjökull, is a glacier-capped volcano on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. At 1,446 meters tall, it's not the biggest glacier, but it's one of the most visible. On clear days, you can see it from Reykjavik, over 100 kilometers away. This glacier has captured people's imagination for centuries. It's considered one of the world's energy centers by some New Age believers. Jules Verne made it famous in his novel Journey to the Center of the Earth, where the characters begin their underground adventure by descending into this glacier. You can drive almost to the top of Snæfellsjökull in summer, though a 4x4 vehicle is required. From the summit, you get incredible 360-degree views of the surrounding area. The glacier has been shrinking rapidly in recent years due to climate change. Scientists estimate it might disappear completely within the next few decades.
I'm Eva. Myrdalsjökull. The dangerous Myrdalsjökull is Iceland's fourth largest glacier, covering about 600 square kilometers. What makes it notable is that it hides one of Iceland's most dangerous volcanoes, Katla. Katla has erupted about 20 times in recorded history, roughly every 40 to 80 years. The last major eruption was in 1918. This means another eruption could happen at any time, and scientists monitor the volcano constantly. When Katla erupts, it melts vast amounts of ice, causing catastrophic floods. The 1918 eruption released so much water that it temporarily extended Iceland's south coast by about 5 kilometers seaward. Despite the danger, Myrdalsjökull is a popular destination. From the glacier descends one of Iceland's most famous glacier tongues, Sólheimajökull, where many glacier hiking tours take place. Glacier Aktivitetsseld's glaciers offer numerous activities for visitors. Glacier hiking. Walking on a glacier is an unforgettable experience. The ice creates incredible formations, crevices, ice walls, moulins, vertical shafts, and ice caves. The surface can be jagged or smooth, dirty or pristine. Glacier hiking tours provide all necessary equipment, crampons for your boots, ice axes, helmets, and harnesses. Guides are essential because glaciers are dangerous. Hidden crevices can be deadly if you fall in, and weather conditions can change rapidly. Tours range from easy walks suitable for beginners to challenging climbs for experienced hikers. Most tours last 2 to 4 hours. Ice caves form naturally in glaciers when water melts channels through the ice. These caves are incredibly beautiful, with walls that glow in shades of blue, from pale aqua to deep sapphire. The blue color comes from the way ice absorbs light. As light passes through thick, compressed ice, it absorbs red wavelengths and reflects blue ones. The older and more compressed the ice, the deeper the blue. Ice caves are only accessible in winter, typically from November to March. This is because in summer, meltwater makes them unstable and dangerous. Each year, new caves form and old ones collapse, so every season offers different caves to explore. The most famous ice caves are in Vatnajökull Glacier. Tours usually depart from Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon and include a super jeep ride to the cave entrance. Snowmobile tours operate on several glaciers year-round, including Langjökull, Vatnajökull, and Myrdalsjökull. These tours let you zip across the snow-covered ice, experiencing the vast white wilderness. Most tours last 1 to 2 hours and include a safety briefing and equipment. 2 people usually share a snowmobile, taking turns driving. Climate change impacts Iceland's glaciers are melting rapidly due to climate change. Scientists estimate that Iceland loses about 11 billion tons of ice every year. At this rate, many of the smaller glaciers could disappear within the next 100 to 200 years. In 2019, Iceland held a funeral for Jökull, a glacier that lost its glacier status. A plaque was placed at the site with a message to the future, acknowledging climate change and expressing hope for action. The melting glaciers are changing Iceland's landscape and ecosystem. As glaciers retreat, they reveal land that hasn't seen daylight for thousands of years. New valleys and mountains appear. Rivers change their courses. Volcanoes and geothermal areas. Iceland sits on one of the most geologically active regions on Earth. The island is home to over 130 volcanic mountains, about 30 of which are active. On average, there's a volcanic eruption in Iceland every 4 to 5 years. This volcanic activity creates some of the most dramatic and otherworldly landscapes on the planet. Why is Iceland so volcanic? Iceland's volcanic activity comes from 2 sources. First, the island sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are pulling apart. As the plates separate, magma rises from deep in the earth to fill the gap, creating new crust. Second, Iceland sits above a mantle plume, often called a hotspot. This is a column of abnormally hot rock rising from deep in the Earth's mantle. The combination of the spreading ridge and the hotspot makes Iceland one of the most volcanically active places in the world. The plates are moving apart at about 2 centimeters per year. This might not sound like much, but over millions of years, it adds up. Iceland is essentially being torn in half, with new rock constantly being created in the middle. Famous eruptions. Age of Fallical 2010. This eruption became world famous because it disrupted air travel across Europe for weeks. The ash cloud from the volcano spread across the North Atlantic and Europe, forcing the cancellation of over 100,000 flights and affecting 10 million travelers. The eruption began in March 2010 and continued into May. While not particularly large by volcanic standards, it produced extremely fine ash that posed a danger to aircraft engines. The economic impact was estimated at billions of dollars. Interestingly, the eruption itself caused minimal damage in Iceland. The main effects were local flooding from glacial melt and ashfall on nearby farms. The glacier on top of the volcano melted during the eruption, creating spectacular ice caves afterwards. The name Eyjafjallajökull became infamous because news anchors worldwide struggled to pronounce it. It means island mountain glacier in Icelandic. Eldfell 1973. In January 1973, a fissure opened without warning on Heimaey Island, home to about 5,000 people. Lava and ash began erupting just 200 meters from the town. The entire population was evacuated overnight, mostly by fishing boats. The eruption continued for 5 months, destroying about 400 homes and threatening to close the harbor, which was vital to the island's fishing industry. In a remarkable effort, Icelanders pumped millions of gallons of seawater onto the lava to cool and solidify it, successfully diverting the lava flow and saving the harbor. This was the first time humans had successfully changed the course of a lava flow. When the eruption ended, the island was 2.2 square kilometers larger, and the volcano had added 200 meters to the island's height. Residents returned and rebuilt their town. Today, you can still see homes that were partially buried by lava, and the volcano offers hiking with incredible views. Loki 1783 to 1780. For the Loki eruption was one of the most devastating in Iceland's history. A 25-kilometer-long fissure opened, erupting for 8 months and producing one of the largest lava flows in recorded history. The lava covered an area of 565 square kilometers. But even worse was the poisonous gas and ash released. The fluorine gas poisoned livestock and crops. About 50% of Iceland's cattle, 75% of horses, and 80% of sheep died. This led to a famine that killed about 20% of Iceland's human population. The haze from the eruption spread across Europe, causing crop failures and health problems. Some historians believe it contributed to the unrest that led to the French Revolution. The Loki craters can be visited today, though they require a 4x4 vehicle. The landscape is still barren and haunting, with massive lava fields and craters stretching as far as the eye can see. Recent activity. Iceland has seen several eruptions in recent years. In 2021, the Fagradalsfjall volcano erupted on the Reykjanes Peninsula. This was the first eruption in this area in 800 years. The eruption was relatively small and well-behaved, with lava fountains creating a spectacular show. Thousands of people hiked to see it, making it one of the most visited volcanic eruptions ever. In 2023 and 2024, new eruptions occurred in the same area near the town of Grindavik. These eruptions were more threatening, with lava flows coming close to the town and eventually destroying several buildings. The famous Blue Lagoon had to be evacuated several times. Geothermal. Iceland's volcanic activity doesn't just mean eruptions. It also creates geothermal areas where heat from below the Earth's surface reaches the ground. These areas have hot springs, mud pools, steam vents, and geysers. Geysir geothermal. This area in the Golden Circle is home to the original geysir, the hot spring that gave all geysers their name. The English word geyser comes from the Icelandic word geysir, which means to gush. The Great Geysir was first documented in 1294 and has been erupting on and off for centuries. At its peak, it could shoot water up to 70 meters high. However, earthquakes and human interference have made it mostly dormant today. It rarely erupts, and when it does, it's not very impressive. Fortunately, Geysir's neighbor, Strákur, is very active. Strákur erupts every 5 to 10 minutes, shooting boiling water 15 to 40 meters into the air. It's incredibly predictable, so visitors can easily catch multiple eruptions. The area has numerous other hot springs and pools, creating a landscape of steam and bubbling water. The water is incredibly hot, around 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, and visitors must stay on marked paths for safety. Farer, Mamafjalnir Lake Mevaton in North Iceland is Farer, a geothermal area that looks like another planet. The ground is various shades of yellow, orange, red, and brown from sulfur and other minerals. The air smells strongly of sulfur, like rotten eggs. Here, you'll find bubbling mud pools that plop and splash fumaroles, which are vents releasing steam and gas. The ground that's hot to the touch in many places. Sulfur crystals forming around the vents. Landscape is completely barren. Nothing grows here because of the heat and chemicals. It's easy to imagine you're on another planet or seeing what Earth might have looked like billions of years ago. A mountain called Mamafjall rises behind the area. Its slopes are colored by geothermal minerals, and steam rises from numerous vents. You can hike to the top for incredible views of the area. Selton, Hersuvik on the Reykjanes Peninsula, the Selton geothermal area offers another colorful, steaming landscape. Wooden walkways let you explore safely among the hot springs and mud pools. The area is very active, and the landscape changes constantly. New hot springs appear, old ones disappear, and the ground shifts. The colors are vibrant. Yellows, oranges, greens, and blues create a natural painting. This area is easily accessible from Reykjavik, making it a popular stop for visitors heading to the Blue Lagoon or the airport. How geothermal energy powers Iceland. Iceland harnesses its geothermal energy extensively. About 90% of Icelandic homes are heated with geothermal water. Hot water is pumped from underground and distributed through pipes to homes and businesses. Geothermal power plants generate about 25% of Iceland's electricity. The Hellisheidi power plant near Reykjavik is one of the largest geothermal power plants in the world. This abundant clean energy is one reason Iceland has such a high standard of living. Energy is relatively cheap and environmentally friendly. Even sidewalks in Reykjavik are heated with geothermal water to prevent ice in winter. Safety around geothermal areas. While beautiful, geothermal areas are dangerous. The water is boiling, and the ground can be thin, collapsing into hot mud underneath. Always stay on marked paths and follow warning signs. The steam can cause severe burns. Children should be supervised closely. Every year, tourists are injured or killed when they ignore warnings and step into hot springs or venture off paths. Respect these areas and their power. They're beautiful but dangerous reminders of the volcanic forces beneath Iceland. Black sand beach. Iceland's beaches are unlike beaches anywhere else. Instead of white or golden sand, many of Iceland's beaches are covered in black volcanic sand. These dramatic coastlines are among Iceland's most photographed locations. Why black sand? The black sand forms when volcanic lava meets the ocean. The temperature shock of molten lava hitting cold water causes it to shatter into tiny particles. Over time, waves grind this volcanic rock into fine black sand. The sand is basalt, the same dark volcanic rock that makes up most of Iceland. This gives the beaches their distinctive jet black appearance. Reynisfjara, the famous black beach Reynisfjara, near the village of Vik, is Iceland's most famous black sand beach. It's easy to see why it's so popular. The beach has everything: black sand, massive basalt columns, powerful waves, and rock formations rising from the sea. The basalt columns inside of the beach features a cliff face of hexagonal basalt columns called gardar. These columns look like they were carved by skilled craftsmen, but they formed naturally when lava cooled slowly. The geometric perfection is amazing to see.
The columns stand neatly packed together, creating a wall that's both beautiful and imposing. The regularity of the pattern makes them look artificial, but this is entirely natural. Reynisdranger sea stacks rising from the sea offshore are tall rock pillars called Reynisdranger. According to legend, these are trolls who were turned to stone. The story says that two trolls tried to drag a three-masted ship to shore but were caught by the sunrise. Sunlight turned them to stone, where they remain forever. The stacks are basalt, remnants of ancient cliffs that have been eroded by waves. The largest stands about 66 meters tall. They're home to thousands of seabirds, including puffins in summer. The dangerous wave Reynisfjara is beautiful but dangerous. The waves here are unpredictable and incredibly powerful. They're called sneaker waves because they can suddenly surge up the beach, much larger and faster than previous waves. These waves have pulled tourists into the sea, and several people have died here. The water is extremely cold, around 4-6 degrees Celsius. If swept in, hypothermia sets in within minutes, and the strong currents make swimming back nearly impossible. Warning signs are posted everywhere, but every year tourists ignore them and get too close to the water. Always maintain a safe distance from the waves, never turn your back on the ocean, and if a wave approaches, run to higher ground immediately. Diamond Beach near Jekyll's Arl and Glacier Lagoon is Diamond Beach, another stunning black sand beach. Here, icebergs that float out of the lagoon wash up on the shore. The chunks of ice scattered across the black sand look like giant diamonds, hence the name. The contrast between the crystal clear ice and the jet black sand creates incredible photo opportunities. The ice comes in all sizes, from pieces smaller than your hand to blocks as large as cars. The ice is ancient glacier ice, sometimes thousands of years old. As light passes through it, the ice glows in shades of blue and white. The beach changes constantly. Each tide brings new ice and takes old pieces away. Waves polish the ice, making it smooth and clear. You can walk among the ice chunks, though be careful as they can be slippery. DG Palmsander Beach in the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. DG Palmsander is a black pebble beach with a fascinating history. The beach is scattered with rusty iron pieces from a British trawler that wrecked here in 1948. The ship, called Epen GY7, broke apart on the rocks during a storm, and all crew members perished. The beach also has 4 lifting stones that were used to test the strength of fishermen. The stones weigh 23, 54, 100, and 154 kilograms. Men who wanted to become fishermen had to lift the heaviest stone to their waist to qualify for the crew.
The black pebbles here are smooth and rounded from centuries of wave action. Walking on them creates a unique crunching sound. The area is surrounded by dramatic lava formations and rock arches. Stokksnes Beach in East Iceland. Stokksnes offers another dramatic black sand beach with the mountain Vestrahorn as a backdrop. This pyramid-shaped mountain rises 454 meters from sea level, creating one of Iceland's most photographed scenes. The beach has shallow pools that create perfect reflections of the mountain. The combination of black sand, mirror-like water, and the jagged mountain peak is spectacular, especially at sunrise or sunset. Access to Stokksnes requires a small fee as it's on private land, but the views are worth it. The area sees fewer tourists than the south coast, offering more solitude. The Northern Lights Aurora Borealis. One of the main reasons people visit Iceland in winter is to see the Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis. This natural light show is one of the most spectacular phenomena on Earth. What are the Northern Lights? The Northern Lights are created by the sun. The sun constantly releases charged particles called solar wind. When these particles reach Earth, they're drawn toward the magnetic poles by Earth's magnetic field. When the charged particles collide with gases in Earth's atmosphere, they release energy in the form of light. Different gases create different colors. Oxygen produces green and red lights, while nitrogen creates blue and purple. The lights appear to dance and move because the solar wind is constantly changing, and Earth's magnetic field directs the particles in flowing patterns. Colors of the aurora. Green is the most common color, produced when particles collide with oxygen at lower altitudes. This is what you'll see most often in Iceland. Red auroras are rarer, occurring when particles interact with oxygen at very high altitudes. These are usually faint and only visible during strong auroral displays. Blue and purple come from nitrogen and are less common. Sometimes you'll see a combination of colors creating a multicolored display. In photographs, the colors often appear more vivid than they do to the naked eye. Cameras can capture colors that our eyes can't see in low light conditions. In person, the lights often appear whitish green, though during strong displays, the green can be very vivid. When and where to see them? Northern Lights are visible in Iceland from late August through mid-April, though the best months are September through March. You need dark skies, so the summer months with their midnight sun make aurora viewing impossible. The lights can appear anywhere in Iceland, but you need to escape city lights. Even Reykjavik's light pollution can make viewing difficult. though strong auroras can sometimes be seen from the city. The best strategy is to head away from towns to dark areas. The further north you go, the better your chances, as you're closer to the Arctic Circle. But southern Iceland can also offer excellent viewing. Aurora forecast northern lights are unpredictable, but forecasts can help you plan. The Icelandic Met Office provides aurora forecasts showing cloud cover and aurora activity levels. The activity is measured on a scale from 0 to 9. A reading of 2 or 3 is enough to see auroras if the sky is clear. Higher numbers mean stronger, more active displays. Cloud cover is crucial. Even with high aurora activity, clouds will block your view. Clear, cold nights offer the best conditions. Solar activity in the aurora sun goes through an 11-year cycle of activity. During solar maximum, the sun is more active, producing more solar flares and stronger solar wind. This creates more frequent and intense auroras. We're currently approaching a solar maximum, which means the next few years should offer excellent aurora viewing opportunities. Occasionally, massive solar storms called coronal mass ejections send huge amounts of charged particles toward Earth. These create aurora displays that can be seen much further south than usual, sometimes even in places like Scotland or northern United States. Photography tips: photographing the northern lights requires some preparation. You need a camera that can do long exposures. A DSLR or mirrorless camera works best. Phone cameras are getting better, but still struggle with auroras. Use a wide-angle lens to capture more of the sky. A lens with a large aperture like f2.8 or wider is ideal. Bring a sturdy tripod. Any movement during the exposure will blur the image. Settings to try: ISO 800 to 3200, aperture wide open f2.8 or lower, shutter speed 5 to 20 seconds. You'll need to experiment based on the aurora's brightness. Use manual focus and focus on infinity. Autofocus won't work in the dark. The experience seeing the northern lights is an emotional experience that's hard to describe. The lights can appear suddenly. One moment the sky is dark, and the next, green ribbons are dancing overhead. Sometimes the auroras are subtle, just a faint green glow on the horizon. Other times they're explosive, filling the entire sky with swirling curtains of light that pulse and move rapidly. Strong displays can actually make a slight crackling sound, though this is rare and debated among scientists. What's certain is the emotional impact. Many people report feeling overwhelmed, some even crying at the beauty of the display.
Northern Lights Tours. Many companies offer Northern Lights tours from Reykjavik. These tours typically last 3-4 hours and take you away from city lights to viewing areas. The advantage of tours is that guides know the best spots and check weather and aurora forecasts. Some tours offer multiple tries, meaning if you don't see the lights on your first attempt, you can go again on another night. You can also rent a car and hunt for the lights yourself. This gives you more flexibility, but requires more planning and weather monitoring. Patience required. Seeing the northern lights requires patience and some luck. They're a natural phenomenon that can't be guaranteed. Some visitors see amazing displays on their first night. Others spend a week in Iceland and never see them. Don't make the northern lights your only reason for visiting Iceland. Treat them as a possible bonus. Iceland has so much else to offer that you'll have an amazing trip even if the auroras don't appear. Midnight sun and summer in Iceland. If the northern lights are winter's magic, the midnight sun is summer's wonder. From May through August, Iceland experiences nearly endless daylight. What is the midnight sun? Iceland sits just below the Arctic Circle. During summer, the Earth's tilt causes the sun to barely set, or not set at all in the far north. In Reykjavik during the summer solstice around June 21st, the sun sets for only about 3 hours, and it doesn't get truly dark. There's a long golden hour where the sun just skims along the horizon, creating beautiful light all night long. In northern Iceland, particularly in places like Grimsey Island, which crosses the Arctic Circle, the sun doesn't set at all for several days around the solstice. The appearance the midnight sun is surreal. At midnight, it's still bright enough to read a book outside. People play golf at midnight. Children play in parks at p.m. The extended daylight gives you more time to explore. You can visit attractions at p.m. and still have perfect lighting for photos. You can go hiking and not worry about running out of daylight. However, sleeping can be challenging. Even with curtains, light creeps in. Your body's circadian rhythm gets confused. Many visitors experience difficulty sleeping during their first few nights. Bringing a sleep mask can help. Summer is peak tourist season in Iceland for good reasons. All roads are open, including the highland routes. You can access remote areas that are impossible to reach in winter. The weather is milder, with temperatures around 10–15 degrees Celsius. While still cool by many standards, it's much more comfortable than winter. Wildlife is more active. Puffins nest on coastal cliffs from May to August. Whales are more frequently spotted. Baby sheep and horses dot the countryside. Hiking conditions are ideal. Trails are snow-free, and you can spend entire days in the wilderness without worrying about darkness.
The downside, summer is also the most expensive and crowded time. Popular attractions can be packed with tour buses and crowds. Accommodation prices are at their highest. The weather can still be unpredictable. Rain, wind, and cool temperatures are common even in July. You won't need winter gear, but definitely bring waterproof layers. The Golden Circle is Iceland's most popular tourist route. It's a 300-kilometer loop from Reykjavik that can be driven in one day, though many people take 2 days to explore more thoroughly. The route includes 3 major attractions and numerous smaller ones. Þingvellir National Park, pronounced Thingvellir, is Iceland's most important historical site and a geological wonder. It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Historical significance. In 930 AD, Iceland's chieftains established the Alþingi, an outdoor parliament. This makes it one of the world's oldest surviving parliaments. For centuries, Icelanders gathered here once a year during summer. The law speaker would stand at the law rock and recite the laws from memory. Disputes were settled, laws were made, and important decisions affecting all of Iceland were decided here. In the year 1000 AD, the decision to convert Iceland to Christianity was made at Þingvellir. This peaceful conversion helped prevent civil war between pagan and Christian factions. Iceland's independence from Denmark was declared here in 1944, making Þingvellir the birthplace of the modern Icelandic nation. Geological significance. Sits in a rift valley where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are pulling apart. You can literally walk between 2 continents. The valley is sinking as the plates separate, creating dramatic cliffs on both sides. The eastern cliff is the edge of the Eurasian plate. The western cliff is the edge of the North American plate. The valley between grows about 2 centimeters wider every year. Earthquakes are common here as the plates move. Usually, they're small, but occasionally larger quakes create visible changes in the landscape. Silfra Fisher within Þingvellir is Silfra, one of the world's top diving and snorkeling sites. Silfra is a fissure filled with glacial water so clear that visibility exceeds 100 meters. The water is filtered through porous lava rock for 30 to 100 years before reaching Silfra, making it incredibly pure and clear. You can drink the water as you swim. The temperature is constant at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius year-round. Despite the cold, thousands of people snorkel or dive here annually. You wear a dry suit for insulation, and the experience of floating between 2 continents is unforgettable. The fissure itself is narrow in places, creating interesting swim-throughs. The colors underwater range from deep blues to bright greens, and the clarity makes it feel like you're flying through the water.
Other features. Xarafos is a waterfall within the park that was historically important. Criminals sentenced to death were drowned in the river below the falls. Lake Þingvallavatn is Iceland's largest natural lake, covering 80 square kilometers. The lake is full of fish, particularly Arctic char and trout. The park has numerous walking trails that take you along the rift valley, past the Law Rock, and to various viewpoints. In summer, the valley is green with moss and small plants. In winter, it's covered in snow, creating a completely different atmosphere. Glacier geothermal area. We discussed this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing its place on the Golden Circle. The Glacier area is midway through the route and makes an excellent lunch stop. Besides Strokker's regular eruptions, the area has a visitor center with exhibits about geothermal activity, restaurants, and shops. The surrounding area also has a hotel and the historic Glacier Center. Golfus Waterfall, the final major stop on the Golden Circle, is Golfus, described in detail earlier. It's the grand finale of the route, and most people spend 30 to 45 minutes here walking the pads and viewing the falls from different angles. Additional stops on the extended Golden Circle. Many tours include extra stops. Carrick Crater. This is a volcanic crater about 55 meters deep with a beautiful blue-green lake at the bottom. The crater formed about 3,000 years ago when a cone volcano emptied its magma chamber and the ground collapsed. The crater walls show distinct layers of red volcanic rock, creating a colorful amphitheater. There's a small fee to enter, and you can walk around the rim or descend to the lake. Freeheimer Tomato Farm. This unique farm grows tomatoes year-round using geothermal energy. They offer tours showing how the greenhouse operation works and have a restaurant serving dishes made with their tomatoes. Eating lunch in a greenhouse filled with tomato plants, with bees buzzing around for pollination, is a unique Icelandic experience. Secret Lagoon. Near the village of Flahir is the Secret Lagoon, one of Iceland's oldest swimming pools. The water is naturally heated to 38 to 40 degrees Celsius by a hot spring right in the pool. It's more rustic than the Blue Lagoon, with steam rising from the water and a small geyser erupting nearby. It's also less crowded and less expensive, making it a favorite among travelers who want a more authentic experience. Skálholt Cathedral. This small church marks the location of Iceland's religious center for nearly 700 years. From 1056 to 1785, Skálholt was the seat of one of Iceland's bishops. The current church is modern, built in the 1960s, but it stands on a site with deep historical significance. The basement has an exhibition about the church's history, and concerts are sometimes held here.
The Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon is Iceland's most famous attraction. This milky blue geothermal spa has become an icon of Iceland and appears on countless postcards and Instagram feeds. Formation and history. Interestingly, the Blue Lagoon is not a natural hot spring. It's a happy accident created by the nearby Svartsengi geothermal power plant. The power plant pumps superheated water from deep underground to generate electricity. The used water, still hot and full of minerals, is discharged into the surrounding lava field. This created a lagoon that gradually grew larger. In 1976, people started bathing in the lagoon unofficially. They noticed the water seemed to help with skin conditions. In 1987, a public bathing facility was opened, and it has grown into the world-class spa that exists today. The water in the Blue Lagoon is a mix of seawater and freshwater from the geothermal system. It's heated to about 37–39 degrees Celsius, perfect for comfortable bathing. The milky blue color comes from silica, which reflects light and makes the water opaque. The water also contains algae, minerals, and salts. This combination is excellent for your skin. The high mineral content means you shouldn't dip your head underwater or get water in your eyes, as it can sting. Most people keep their hair dry or wear a swim cap. Silica mud mask. One of the highlights of visiting the Blue Lagoon is the free silica mud mask. At stations around the lagoon, you can scoop up white silica mud and apply it to your face. The mud is rich in minerals and feels cooling on your skin. You let it dry for a few minutes, then rinse it off in the warm water. It leaves your skin feeling smooth and refreshed. This has become a ritual for visitors, and photos of people with white mud masks are everywhere on social media. The facilitiest Blue Lagoon has evolved from a simple pool to a luxury destination. The standard admission includes access to the lagoon, silica mud mask, use of towels, and one drink from the swim-up bar. The premium package adds a bathrobe, slippers, a second mud mask algae mask, and a table reservation at the restaurant. The luxury package includes private changing areas, bathrobes, slippers, sparkling wine, and a treatment of your choice. The lagoon has a swim-up bar where you can order drinks while soaking. There's also a sauna and steam room built into a lava cave. The restaurant, Lava Restaurant, offers fine dining with views over the lagoon. Moss Restaurant is more casual but still excellent. The environment. The Blue Lagoon is set in a black lava field, creating a dramatic contrast with the blue water. The lava formed in a massive eruption in the 1200s. Walkways and bridges made from lava rock went through the lagoon, creating different areas to explore. The design team worked carefully to blend the structures with the natural environment.
Steam rises constantly from the water, creating an atmospheric and sometimes surreal scene. On cold days, the contrast between the warm water and cold air creates even more steam. Controversy and Crouch Blue Lagoon has received criticism for being too touristy and expensive. Admission prices have risen significantly over the years, and the site is often crowded, especially during summer. Some travelers feel it's overrated and prefer smaller, less expensive geothermal pools around Iceland. Nature baths in North Iceland and the Secret Lagoon are often mentioned as alternatives. However, there's no denying the Blue Lagoon is unique. The facilities are world-class, the setting is stunning, and the experience is memorable. For many visitors, it's worth the cost and crowds. Booking and tips: you must book in advance. The Blue Lagoon operates on a timed entry system to manage crowds. In peak season, it often sells out weeks in advance. Visit early in the morning or late in the evening for smaller crowds. The lagoon is open until midnight in summer and until 10 p.m. in winter. Shampoo and conditioner are provided in the changing rooms. Use plenty of conditioner in your hair before entering the water to protect it from the minerals. Bring a water bottle. The water is drinkable, and staying hydrated is important when soaking in hot water. Don't wear jewelry. The minerals can tarnish silver and other metals. Icelandic culture and traditions. Iceland has a unique culture shaped by its isolation, harsh environment, and Viking heritage. Despite being a small nation, Icelanders have maintained strong traditions and cultural identity. Language: Icelandic is one of the oldest living languages in Europe, having changed remarkably little in over 1,000 years. Modern Icelanders can read the medieval sagas written in Old Norse with relatively little difficulty. The language has been deliberately preserved. The Icelandic Language Committee creates new Icelandic words for modern concepts rather than adopting foreign words. For example, computer is tölva in Icelandic, a combination of words meaning number and profit. Icelandic has letters that don't exist in English, like d, thorn, df, and e. These make Icelandic place names particularly challenging for foreigners to pronounce. Despite the uniqueness of their language, most Icelanders speak excellent English. Many also speak Danish, as it's taught in schools. Communication is rarely a problem for English-speaking tourists. Naming traditions: Iceland uses a patronymic or matronymic naming system rather than family surnames. Your last name indicates your father's or mother's first name plus son or daughter. For example, if John Einarsson has a daughter named Anna and a son named Gunnar, they would be Anna Johnsdotter and Gunnar Jansson. Anna's children would have different last names based on her husband's name. I'm Eva. This means family members don't share last names in the way most countries do. In phone books, people are listed by first name, and everyone calls each other by their first name, even the president. Women keep their father's name when they marry rather than taking their husband's name, since technically there is no family surname to take. Literature and the sagas. Icelanders have an extraordinary literary tradition. The medieval Icelandic sagas are epic stories about the early settlers, their feuds, adventures, and daily life. Written in the 13th and 14th centuries about events in the 9th to 11th centuries, these sagas are masterpieces of medieval literature. The most famous include Njál's Saga, Egil's Saga, and the Laxdæla Saga. They tell complex stories of honor, revenge, love, and death. Despite being 800 years old, they're still widely read and quoted in Iceland today. Iceland publishes more books per capita than any other country. 1 in 10 Icelanders will publish a book in their lifetime. The Icelandic word for this is bókmenntr, which means book people, a fitting description. The annual Reykjavik Book Fair in October is a major event. There's even a tradition called Jólabókaflug, or Christmas Book Flood, where most books are published before Christmas, and Icelanders give books as gifts and spend Christmas Eve reading. Belief in hidden people: elves. A surprising number of Icelanders believe in, or at least don't discount, the existence of hidden people called huldufólk. These are elf-like beings who live in rocks and hills, invisible to most humans. In surveys, a significant percentage of Icelanders say they believe hidden people might exist or that it can't be ruled out. Stories about elves are passed down through generations. This belief has real-world impacts. Construction projects have been delayed or rerouted to avoid disturbing rocks where elves supposedly live. In 2013, elf advocates protested a road project, claiming it would destroy an elf habitat. It's debated how much of this is literal belief versus cultural tradition and respect for nature. Regardless, the stories are an integral part of Icelandic folklore and identity. Árabátt, traditional winter festival. Árabátt is a midwinter festival celebrating traditional Icelandic food and culture. It takes place in January or February during the month of Wari in the old Icelandic calendar. During this festival, Icelanders eat traditional foods, many of which sound unusual to foreigners. Hakkerl, fermented shark, sve, singed sheep's head, krútspungur, pickled rum's testicles, slátur, blood pudding and liver sausage. Harfiskar, dried fish. These foods originated from necessity. In Iceland's harsh past, nothing could be wasted, and food needed to be preserved for long winters. Methods like fermentation, drying, and pickling were essential. Today, these foods are eaten more for tradition than necessity. Árabátt parties feature these foods along with entertainment, singing, and celebrating Icelandic heritage. Equality and women's rights. Iceland is consistently ranked as the world's most gender-equal country. Women received the right to vote in 1915, and Iceland has had a strong women's rights movement for decades. In 1980, Iceland elected Vigdís Finnbogadóttir as the world's first democratically elected female president. She served from 1980 to 1996. The women's strike of October 24, 1975, was a pivotal moment. About 90% of Icelandic women went on strike for the day, not working or doing housework. This brought the country to a standstill and demonstrated women's essential role in society. Today, Iceland has strong parental leave policies, affordable childcare, and high representation of women in business and politics. Iceland's small population affects with only 380,000 people. Iceland functions like a large family in some ways. Most Icelanders are connected by only a few degrees of separation. There's even a dating app called Islandingabók Book of Icelanders that helps prevent accidental incest by checking if you're related to someone before dating them. Because of the small population, many Icelanders are distant cousins. The tight-knit community creates a strong sense of social cohesion. People look out for each other, and there's a strong sense of trust. Crime is very low, and children often play outside unsupervised. Music and arts. Despite its small population, Iceland has produced internationally renowned musicians and artists. Björk is probably the most famous, but bands like Sigur Rós, of Monsters and Men, and Kallio have also achieved global success. Reykjavik has a vibrant music scene with numerous festivals. Iceland Airwaves, held every November, brings international and local artists together and is considered one of Europe's premier music festivals. Visual arts thrive in Iceland too. The country has numerous galleries and museums, and Icelandic artists often draw inspiration from their dramatic landscape. Independence Day June 17 is Iceland's national day, celebrating independence from Denmark achieved in 1944. The date was chosen because it's the birthday of Jón Sigurðsson, who led Iceland's independence movement in the 19th century. Celebrations include parades, outdoor concerts, street performances, and family activities. People dress in traditional Icelandic costume or fancy dress. It's a joyful celebration of Icelandic identity. Wildlife of Iceland. Iceland's wildlife is limited but special. The island's isolation and harsh climate mean few species made it here naturally. There are no native land mammals except the Arctic fox. However, the seas around Iceland and the coastal cliffs teem with life. Puffins. Atlantic puffins are Iceland's most beloved birds. About 8 to 10 million puffins breed in Iceland each year, representing about 60% of the world's Atlantic puffin population. These small seabirds are instantly recognizable with their colorful beaks striped in orange, yellow, and black. The beak is only colorful during breeding season. In winter, it turns gray. Puffins nest in burrows on coastal cliffs and islands. They mate for life and return to the same burrow each year. Both parents share duties of incubating the single egg and feeding the chick. The best time to see puffins is from May through August. By mid-August, most puffins have left their nesting sites and returned to open ocean, where they spend the winter. Popular puffin viewing locations include La Trabjord Cliffs in the Westfjords, largest bird cliff in Europe, Derhale Peninsula near Vik, Vestmannager Westman Islands, Borgarfjord Estuary in East Iceland, Lundy Island near Reykjavik. Puffins are curious and not very afraid of humans, so you can often get quite close. However, be careful near cliff edges and nesting areas. Puffins nest in burrows in the turf, and stepping on a burrow can collapse it, potentially killing chicks inside. Baby puffins and puffling season. In August and early September, baby puffins called pufflings leave their burrows for the first time. They're supposed to head out to sea, but lights from towns confuse them. Many end up in streets and yards, unable to find the ocean. In the Westman Islands, children participate in puffling patrol, going out at night to rescue confused pufflings. They collect the birds in boxes, keep them overnight, and release them at the beach in the morning. This tradition has become an important part of Icelandic childhood, teaching care for wildlife and community responsibility. Whales. Iceland's waters are rich feeding grounds for whales. Over 20 species have been spotted, including humpback whales, common in summer, known for their acrobatic breaches; minke whales, the most commonly seen species; orcas killer whales, seen year-round, especially in winter; blue whales, the largest animals on Earth, occasionally seen in summer; sperm whales, deep-diving whales spotted off the north coast; white-beaked dolphins, playful and often approach boats; harbor porpoises, smaller and shy, but relatively common. Best place for whale watching is Húsavík in North Iceland, often called the whale watching capital of Iceland. Akureyri, Reykjavik, and the Snæfellsnes Peninsula also offer whale watching tours. Summer June-August is the best time for whale watching, with the highest success rates. However, tours operate year-round, and winter has the advantage of possibly seeing orcas and whales together with the northern lights. Whaling controversy. Iceland is one of the few countries that still practices commercial whaling, along with Norway and Japan. This is controversial and has led to criticism from conservation groups and some tourists. The Icelandic government sets quotas for minke and fin whales. However, demand for whale meat has decreased significantly. Many Icelanders don't eat whale meat, and a growing number oppose whaling. Interestingly, much of the whale meat demand comes from tourists trying it as a novelty. Conservation groups encourage tourists not to eat whale meat, as this helps reduce demand. Icelandic horses. The Icelandic horse is a unique breed that has been in Iceland for over 1,000 years. Vikings brought horses with them, and strict import laws since that time mean the breed has remained pure. These horses are small, about the size of ponies, but Icelanders insist they're horses, not ponies. They're incredibly strong and hardy, adapted to Iceland's harsh conditions. What makes Icelandic horses unique is that they have 5 gaits instead of the usual 3. In addition to walk, trot, and canter, gallop, they have tald and flying pace. Tald is a smooth, 4-beat gait comfortable for riders even at speed. Flying pace is an extremely fast lateral gait used in racing. Icelandic horses have thick coats, long manes, and come in many colors. They're known for being friendly, curious, and gentle. If a horse leaves Iceland, it can never return, even for competitions. This strict law prevents disease introduction and maintains the breed's purity. Horse riding tours are popular throughout Iceland. You can do short rides or multi-day horseback treks through the highlands. Arctic fox. The Arctic fox is Iceland's only native land mammal. They arrived here at the end of the last ice age, probably walking over frozen sea ice from Greenland or Scandinavia. These small foxes have thick fur that changes color with seasons, brownish-gray in summer and white in winter for most individuals, though some have a blue-gray color year-round. Arctic foxes are found throughout Iceland but are most common in the Westfjords. They feed on birds, eggs, small mammals, and carrion. There's an Arctic Fox Center in Súðavík in the Westfjords where you can learn about these animals and their relationship with Icelanders. Reindeerhinder are not native but were introduced from Norway in the 18th century. They live only in East Iceland and number about 3,000 to 6,000 individuals.